right, I get where we're going. We're the corner wall and broad. The Dow about 300 points here. A relief rally that, at least for the time being, the president is immediately planning to go to war here. Also some kinder words when it comes to trade. Reports are that he's going to be flexible on a rework of NAFTA. First Senate Corner to Texas was the first to hint at that. The president later on confirming that. And we are on top of all of that. Let me introduce my esteemed panel. We have Charlie Gasparino with us. We have Katherine Timpf with us. Last but certainly not least in my book, Charlie Payne. Charles Payne, relief rally when the president, I guess, has to clarify a tweet that rattled folks yesterday that he never said anything about when he would attack, but it's a foregone conclusion he's going to attack, right?
It is, well, it may not be a foregone conclusion. Listen, I think he got a lot of pushback because he always tweeted in the past, you never broadcast when you're going to attack, and so now he clarified, hey, I didn't say specifically, yada, yada. Looks like Germany is on board in terms of moral support. We may get Great Britain on board. It feels like they're putting together some coalition, but there's a lot of folks in conservative circles and certainly libertarian who are pushing back on the president from going against his own instincts on this and getting drawn deeper into this quagmire. Yeah, because it was, as you know, Barack Obama drew the line, and obviously Assad crossed that line. There's been sort of consternation since. How far does a U.S. president go on stuff like this? If you get involved once, you have to get involved every time.
I don't think
a leader like this does it, right?
I don't think we should be getting involved, especially not with congressional approval. In 2013, President Trump actually tweeted, big mistake to attack Syria without congressional approval. And now he seems to, now that it's 2018, he seems to have changed his mind. But if you talk about a strike, we already did that last time Assad used chemical weapons.
Well,
and he did it again.
Strike by definition,
and he did it again.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's the use of putting at a risk of escalation with Russia, using our resources, putting people at risk for something like that when we know it's not going to do any good.
Ignore everything that's going on there. This guy.
I would like Congress to decide. I would like bring it to Congress.
Understood. You know, the rap seems to be. By the way, a wonderful haircut.
Thank you. Black and Decker chips.
Sure, you save a ton on that. But is it your sense that whatever the president could be cooking up, and Charles is right, we don't know if he's even cooking up a military response. But if there is one, it's going to be decidedly different than a year ago when it was sort of like a pinprick strike at one air base, the air base that was used from which all of these planes launched their chemical attack.
I think the problem that we have with him is that he signals something then pulls back, and it's hard to.
Maybe that's the whole idea.
Well,
people like you guessing,
and then no one believes him. And I think he's doing that kind of with trade. He's ratcheting back all his rhetoric, so. He doesn't really get that much out of the Chinese. Maybe he'll get like some fig leaf.
We don't know that, though.
We don't know he's getting anything either.
But we got Xi Jinping announcing to the world. Here was a guy, by the way, hats off to you. Early on said, watch this speech as Xi Jinping.
By the way, he said the same stuff about 10 times already.
And you not tipping your hat to Charles?
Here's my hat. Right. I don't have a hat today, but Xi Jinping.
You need a new one too. I think his size went down a little bit. Yeah.
Right. But he basically has said the same thing. About
although he has put a timestamp now on the auto tariffs. He said this year it will happen. Before it was always open-ended. And yesterday there were some more things about.
No, the auto tariffs. Just explain. They're 25% now on foreign cars, more on very expensive foreign cars.
That's a pretty lame. That's a pretty.
But he would reduce it not to the.
It won't be 2.5%, but it would certainly be lower. And listen, China, this reveals something in China, too, by the way, guys. If a car that costs $30,000 in America, or let's say a $50,000 car in America costs $150,000 in China, it points also to a serious income inequality gap in their own country. He's got some domestic issues he's got to deal with.
That's why they're trying to rejigger the economy. My bigger point is this. Trump talks a mean game and ratchets back every time. He's doing it with, he did it with trade, and that's where it looks like we're going.
You know what?
And let me just make my point.
He's getting results.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Not on trade.
He's getting some results.
He's getting results.
What has he got? The guy gave a speech that he gave 3 years ago.
Well,
no, it's not.
This guy gave a time.
He
altered a couple of words in his speech.
Also yesterday, it didn't get a lot of press, so they're going to allow more financial investments in China as well. Let the dust settle before you say it's a loser,
I'm just saying,
because I'm telling you already,
I want to see results. And here's what I would say. He talks all this stuff and ratchets back every time, and you're going to lose credibility worldwide when you do.
Well, that's called negotiating.
Well, let me switch gears.
He's negotiating against himself?
It's got to be.
No.
I mean, that's what it looks like.
It's called negotiating.
Yap one more time. Kat, I want to address this with you. Paul Ryan, as you know, announced that he's not running for re-election. He'll be gone in January. A lot of people are saying in the Republican Party, I wish you could go sooner so we can get this whole leadership things straightened out. But to read some of the headlines, you'd think it was political Armageddon.
Right.
For Republicans. They're, you know, the 40 of their top members, their most seasoned members are out of there. So it must be a preview to the sayonara. I don't know if I buy that.
Right. Well, everyone and their mother saying blue wave, blue wave. And if I were a Democrat, I would be very concerned that all this talk of a certain blue wave would make Democrats complacent.
Exactly.
Because we saw what happened in 2016 when Democrats got complacent. Donald Trump is the president. Democrats, if they get too sure, they might be less worried about focusing on a message, which I think that they need a message, and voters might become apathetic and be less likely to actually go out to the polls.
There's very little complacency in the Democratic Party.
Let me ask you about the Republican.
Not
no,
now.
I know what you're saying.
I agree with you right now, but I'm saying if this continues,
but it's easy to get cocky.
It is easy to get cocky. Blue wave for sure. It could get that way.
All right, now we're minutes away. The president is going to outline later on in this show's hour, which he wanted to do time it with my show. That's fine. It's a burden I carry. And
because he loves you.
Yeah, of course he does. But in all seriousness, one of the things he's going to outline is an update on this whole tax thing and the good news that's come out of tax cuts and all that, maybe making the individual one permanent. But that's the pony he's going to be riding. That's the one that it was no accident that no fewer than 4 times did Paul Ryan come back to the tax thing. Is it your sense that Republicans feel that that has been underrepresented in polls or underappreciated in the general media, that there's a lot more enthusiasm for that than is being counted on?
The Republicans I speak to who are dyed-in-the-wool, a lot of them are dyed-in-the-wool conservatives, are worried about the Trump temperament casting a pall over the fact that we have a pretty good economy, we have tax cuts that are still going to kick in, so it could get a lot better. And they're worried about the trade stuff, that he actually might do a trade war with them, which I don't believe is going to happen. That's their main worry. And, you know, I'm getting back to what Kat just said. The Democrats have a lot of enthusiasm right now. I mean, they despise this guy. And they're out in force. Well, if he fired Mueller tomorrow, there would be.
By the way, it's almost as if they're wanting to tempt that.
They would love that, of course.
They keep on the headlines, but I do agree with Kat in the sense also that there's no message, right? Yesterday, the Quinnipiac poll came out. We only hear about it when it skews against Trump, but in terms of who do you want to see control the House of Representatives, Republican 43%, Dem 46%. You know, on February 20th, it was 38-53.
Is that right?
And by the way, what's driving this? Independents, 43% would rather see Republican Party, 39% Democrat. So there's some things going on.
But who's more jazzed in that group, Charles, to go to the polls? Because as you and I know, covering midterms,
turnout is always important.
That's a biggie.
But even this kind of stuff we don't hear a lot. This is really very stealthy kind of stuff that's going on, in part because of the economy.
You don't really need a pure national message in midterms. I mean, I saw the Republicans.
You need a message.
Republicans had no message in 2010 except for
40 top Republicans opt out, so they don't want to run. That does open up a contest in each and every one of those.
Listen, I can't tell you who's going to win, who's going to control. I can just tell you that the enthusiasm's on the Democratic side. You don't necessarily need a message, and the Republicans proved that against Obama. They just hated Obama. It kind of
But
worked.
I think they might get a little lazy.
Maybe.
The Democrat, they might start the thing with this blue wave talk that you talked on, that it's inevitable and they don't need to work as hard.
Voting is boring. Let's be honest. It's not fun to actually get up and go stand there and
but if you hate a guy, it's important. If you hate someone like Donald Trump, and these Democrats and even a lot of independents despise him, and he stokes that a lot. You know, I don't know if that enthusiasm is going to go. I'm not saying they're going to win.
Right.
I'm just saying that enthusiasm will be there. Just
I agree with you. Time rolls around, you're on the couch. You've already heard about this blue wave. You heard that you got it in the bag. Maybe you won't get up.
Well, let me flip it around. Does the market play into that? If we get a quarter that looks like, with especially the debut of most of the big name financials tomorrow after BlackRock today, that is going to refuel the market, bring it back to its highs. Does that affect voters?
I think it does, and less so necessarily the big banks, but today, you know, it's a small retailer, but a company called Zumiez, for instance, same-store sales up 12%. This is a brick-and-mortar company. Delta Airlines, they increased their guidance this morning based on domestic traffic at a highest level in 4 years.
And early bookings.
Right. So this is the kind of stuff that are core reflections of the American consumer, and most people ultimately do vote with their wallets.
So would they then take that, extrapolate that to go with the Republicans?
You know, earlier we brought up the idea of the Democrats, or Republicans rather, not selling this tax message. You know, this morning I went and looked at a video that the White House put up under Barack Obama that touted that $40 a week from extending the payroll tax cut. It was called $40 from 50 states, and they had a great story of how this $40 every a week positively impacted people's lives. A video from every single state. They played it up. I think this is what Republicans run on this year. It's the economy.
The markets took off under Obama for obvious reasons.
The markets rebounded.
They took off. They went from 6 to 18.
They were oversold. They were down 50%.
Okay. I know they were down 50% because of what happened with George Bush.
It was oversold.
But it went up bigly. Okay, to use a term that our president likes to use. It went up bigly. The economy mildly improved. The Republicans still in that environment were able to take Congress. Now, the difference, I think, here is that the economy, I think, is improving a lot more. Now, we'll see in the numbers, and I think they have that on their side. But, you know, just remember, economic improvement, markets up, did not work for the Democrats in 2010.
Economic improvement does work, though.
Level. Kat and her generation could be the key, because we're told that your generation is cynical of everyone.
That's not true, is it, Kat?
And not convinced anyone should be taking a bow on anything going on here. So if you had to sort of tip your generations and where their heads at
I think
now
that
this year.
People in my generation don't trust politicians of either party. I think that's why we're more and more independent.
But we don't flip over you either. I mean,
right. That's fine. We don't care.
Oh no, you didn't? Oh, right. There we go.
That's why I think the economy is so important, because that's something that actually affects our lives directly.
But you're not overwhelmingly running to Democrats either, then.
Right, absolutely not.
Loving the president, so
absolutely not.
You're so mixed up. I don't know where.
Not mixed up, just jaded.
Jaded, I like that.
Why are you jaded? Everything was handed to you guys.
Not to me.
I mean, I'm not you, but millennials got so much social welfare. They grew up in decent times. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why there's so much
social welfare.
I grew up in the 70s.
This is
I grew up when there was bell bottoms.
All right, this is a demo update.
Bell bottoms.
Average viewer now hooked to oxygen after this. All right.
Inflation now. Remember that? From Gerald Ford.
Yeah, Alan Greenspan. Right. All right, well, that solved that problem. We've got a lot more coming up. The Dow now in and out of session, highs up about 306 points. We also keeping an eye on Michael Pompeo confirmation hearings, the CIA director who wants to replace Rex Tillerson. So far, we're understanding he's comporting himself very well. The toughest line of question he got was from the get-go from Senator Menendez of New Jersey, who questioned whether he would be able to tell the president to his face, "You're wrong on this decision, and tweeting about it is dangerous." He comported himself well enough to say, "I'm my own man." We shall see whether that means he will be the next Secretary of State. More to this.